December 17th meeting of the Finance and Personnel Committee to order. We do have a quorum. We've got Supervisor Cooey and Gentis and myself, and then Supervisor Luck online, so we can carry forward with our business here. Agenda item number 2, there was proper proof of notification, and I saw that it was posted downstairs as well on the bulletin board. Agenda item number 3, agenda approval. So a couple of changes to propose to you all. So we're looking to strike agenda item number 14. And then if we can keep ourselves moving along here and get done before 2:50, we could move agenda items number 11, 12, and 13 about the closed session after agenda item number 17. Then that would make it so that no one's to sit around, wait for us to come back in. So I'm looking for a motion to approve the agenda with those changes. Okay, motion by Cooey, second by Gentis. Yep, and I see Mr. Seeps online, so that's great. You're here as well. All those in favor of approving the agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Okay, that motion carries. Agenda item number 4, previous meeting minutes. So on the last meeting minutes, Ms. Dahl, agenda item number 16, I think it was, I wrote down here. There was a motion to amend by myself and then seconded by myself. And it was Mr. Turk who seconded that. And then the motion to amend carried, and then the amended motion also carried. So if anyone's looking back in our minutes and they're trying to figure out what we did with this HHS comp time, we should probably just get that clarified so that no one's too confused about what we did. So I'm just looking for a motion to, did anyone else have any changes for the minutes?
I move for approval as corrected.
Okay, motion by Seep. Second by Cooey. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Okay, that carries. We have minutes approved. Agenda item number 5 under finance, including purchasing and contracts. Purchase of office equipment, treasurer's office.
Second, Mr. Chair. Can you hear me? You have me on, John?
You're on.
Perfect. How about now? I'll speak with my deep radio voice. There we go. Looking today for a motion to approve reimbursement of employee for office equipment purchased personally. The treasurer's office has identified a need to replace office equipment for a property lister. There are currently funds remaining in the Fund 75 allocation for the property lister position. This dates back to when the expenses were moved out of the equipment purchasing. We did Fund 75, so asking county to use those funds. While the funds are not sufficient to purchase commercial grade office equipment from traditional vendors, secondhand equipment has been identified on local marketplace platforms. It should be adequate for the county to use and fall within the constraints of the available funds. Treasurer's office is requesting permission for an employee to purchase secondhand office equipment from non-traditional local markets and to be reimbursed for expenses of the equipment. This will allow for satisfaction of equipment needs in the office while maintaining budgetary constraints. And again, this will come out of 75, which routinely you folks have blessed off on using. Mr. Chair.
Okay, so looking for a motion to approve this purchase out of Fund 75.
Also
A motion by Gentis. Second by Cooey. Any discussion on this? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 So that motion carries unanimously. I'm in favor as well. Agenda item number 6, approval of American Rescue Plan Act funds for digital codification of county ordinances. Mr. Langra.
Mr. Chair, looking today for a motion to appropriate $25,000 from our Arpa funds to pursue a contract with MuniCode codification and digitization of county ordinances, estimated at $19,245, with the administrator's recommendation of $5,755 in contingent expenses. Background on this item is in efforts to codify and digitize Richland County ordinances. into an accessible code of ordinances. Clerk Kalish recommends that the county enter into a self-publishing software agreement with MuniCode. This agreement includes access to legal consultation that reviews the county's ordinances and assists with the development of a code of ordinances with statute and regulation review to ensure compliance. The proposed action will solidify the committee's blessings on utilizing MuniCode and then also for Arpa funds to begin this project. And again, we're looking to use Fund 93 Arpa funds from estimated costs of $19,245 up to $25,000. This conversation stems over, if you remember, from when we had our annual operation budgets. This was something that was recommended to be cut out of annual operation budgets with displacement to ARPA funds. Mr. Chair.
Okay, so looking for a motion to approve this expense from our ARPA fund accounts. Motion by Cooey,
I'll second it.
second by Gentis. Any discussion on this one? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed, say no. Okay, that motion carries, so we can go forward with getting our ordinances online. Sounds great. Agenda item number 7, approval of ARPA funds for UW Extension Broadband Survey.
Mr. Chair, looking today for a motion to enter an agreement with UW River Falls Survey Research Center, or SRC, to conduct a rural broadband cost proposal survey in order to understand current broadband services provided through Richland County. This item is brought forward as a possible solution in gauging what type of internet coverages are available throughout the county. Internet providers are not obligated to release maps showing their current fiber placement. There's no state or federal public entity that tracks fiber placement. Information from the survey would help the county identify fiber locations, internet services, in an effort to build mapping and gather data to drive future broadband decisions and investments. Estimated cost out of this, and did I have the cost? Oh, thank you. Was estimated from $7,000 to $8,100, and again using ARPA funds, Fund 93 for this project. Mr. Chair.
A motion to approve this money to be spent from our ARPA fund for a broadband survey.
I move to approve with a request for discussion after second.
Okay, we'll do a motion by Cooey and a second by Seat, and then go ahead, Mr. Seat.
What's the relationship of River Falls to this project? I didn't quite get that.
So, W River Falls has their own.
Little louder, please.
This is Mr. Cooey. He's the chair of our UW Extension Committee.
Can you hear me, Don?
Yes, I can. It's lovely to hear your voice, Mr. Cooey.
Nice to hear yours too, Don. So we went through this out at Extension because UW River Falls has a area or department that they just do surveys. So if you're looking to get whatever the survey may be, they have all the staff and everything to run through it. That was the reason why we went that route. Extension kind of pointed us to us. Adam, he was aware of them and that they've used them previously, or different places have used UW River Falls for their survey work. That's why it was pushed out to there.
Very good. That's a valuable resource to the county then.
So that's great because we're.
Supervisor Gentis, go ahead. Just make sure your mic's on and that you're talking into it.
I think my mic is on, isn't it? Originally, did Chelsea make that connection or something? Because we were talking about them doing it, or?
Well, yeah. So when we talked through that at Extension, they don't have the resources anymore that they can do that. So this is where they reached out and said, Adam was the one I think that knew about UW River Falls, and he's got in touch with them and figured it out. So he did a nice job.
Supervisor Luck, do you have any comments on this? I know you've been our broadband advocate.
I don't have any comments other than to say I'm glad it's moving forward.
Okay. All right. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
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 Those say no. Okay, that motion carries. We'll move forward with that as well. Agenda item Number 8, financial reports.
Mr. Chair, looking today for a motion to approve the financial reports from various departments. The treasurer has prepared a cash balance report for review. The accounting supervisor has prepared multiple reports for various departments and funds and departments, and the assistant to the administrator has summarized those reports for you today into a one sheet kind of capturing the percentage left on those. So in looking at your documents, the first one from the county treasurer, and I will share it up on the screen here, should be item 08A in your folders on the website. Jeff prepared this. It shows the kind of the two different accounts that we keep an eye on as our checking balance or our cash balance in the checking account. And it shows then the trend along with the running average. And then below that, then you'll also see then the total cash available, kind of our savings account, if you will, in our short-term investment account that we put out with the state. And then below that, then you'll see the combination of the two for the total available cash on hand.
If you want to just keep going through all the financial reports, then maybe we'll hold questions till the end.
Okay, will do, Mr. Chair. So then the second one we're looking at is 08B. And this one is our Fund 75 tracker. As you remember, that was our longer-term borrowing that we took out to displace for some capital improvements as well as some other maintenance types of projects. Our accounting supervisor, Tammy Wheelock, put this report together. It captures the approved amounts that you'll see there, the current spend, and then the remaining balance that's available, as well as then captures the expenses that will be reflected on the next 12/20 or next Monday audit. Underneath the miscellaneous equipment items that you see kind of halfway on the very left column, that's further broken down then on the right with the different appropriation amounts. Then again, current spend and then balance. I will continue on. Please, if you have questions on this when we get to the end, we can reference those to Tammy. The next tracker, 08C, same type of a format then. This is for our Fund 92, our short-term borrowing, with the breakdowns and remaining. Fund number 08D is now the Arpa fund tracker. And this one here, we have some more approvals to do with it, is we've kind of have a requested amount kind of represented in the approved amount, current spend, and then balance. Keep in mind that at 3.3 is kind of what is approved. So we've got some more work as a committee on finalizing some of those reallocations. We've done 2 more actions today, which will kind of reflect against that balance, but kind of continuing to firm up those pieces. One thing, of course, it's not reflected on here as well, though, is that we have like the monies that's going to be displaced for the child grant program. The next tracker then is the child grant program. It does have our grant recipients on there. I had conversation with Attorney Wendell today, plan on reaching out to him next week with getting a award letter put together and getting those funds out. So then this one here is like an aggregate summary of the different expenditure reports for the departments. This is
You moved to 8F.
I'm sorry, 08F, thank you. For 08F, this is an aggregate on the expenditure reports. Going across, you'll see the administrator budget was at about 130. Year to date is at 224. Combination of an added position as well as then transferring over the accounting supervisor and the payroll and benefit specialist. Likewise, then in inverse, the clerk's budget is only at 51% because those positions moved over. So then having a total combined amount for the 2 offices, we're at about 86.9% for the year. County board budget is at 78.5% for the year. Property lister is at 89.6% for the year. Register of deeds at 87.9% for the year, and treasurer's office at 88.6% for the year. I believe that is our last one, Mr. Chair.
Okay, questions or comments? Let's see, under 8B, this is our 3-year capital improvement list of $3 million. Do you have the date offhand when those have to be spent by? I'm always telling everyone the end of 2022, but I want to make sure I'm right.
I'll have to double check. I think it was March 2023 rings a bell, but we'll track that down and we'll add this to the actual tracker.
Sounds great. Why is the Register of Deeds so far over? Did we approve an expense for her that was 26,000? This is in the right side of that box where it was budgeted for 220, but expenses are 26 grand and change.
Mr. Chairman, I did hear your question and I can't hear the answer.
Did you say you did not hear my question?
No.
Oh, I'm sorry. Under 8B, this is the 3 million capital fund tracker. On the right-hand side, under miscellaneous new equipment, the Register of Deeds was approved for $220, but the expenditures are 26 grand and change. I'm just asking why so much was spent. Did we approve?
I'm not tracking a project. The only thing I could think of to that extent would be some type of a software purchase. We haven't done any type of equipment, so we're going to have to hunt that down unless you know off the top of your head.
No, I noticed that also, but I can research that. I think that was
Okay, thank you.
prior to me, but I'll look at it.
Sounds good. Under 8C, so this is the $1 million of short-term borrowing that we did at the end of 2020, was it? Or beginning of 2021?
Correct.
The highway departments, like they haven't spent anything. There's 650,000, is it?
Yes, and I think what that comes from is that it's a lack of transferring it over to their accounts. Projects are complete. We just have to finalize through it, pushing it over to their accounts.
Okay, got it.
If we need to spend that quick, let me know.
Well, it might just be, knowing it's already spent, it might be good just to get it on the books, and get the transfer done.
Yeah,
so it
and
doesn't-
I think our internal policy goal is to get, this one spent off annually. This is not unlike the previous one, the Fund 75, this isn't a taxable borrowing. So we don't have, this is a taxable borrowing. The other one was a non-taxable borrowing. So we don't have any legal limits on when it has to be closed out, but obviously when we're borrowing and taking property taxes from folks, we want to be putting it towards the purposes as fast as we can.
Okay, so we'll look forward to learning more on that. And then, so I think that answers my other question on this fund. When do those have to be expended? And you're saying that there's not a sunset date on these?
Correct. These notes were taken out taxed, so that there's no legal sunset.
Okay. And then on 8D for ARPA, I think what we might be helpful for next time when we do our financial reports, to have those percentages we adopted in along with this, because yeah, my first question is, where did this approved amount column come from, since of course there's 3.3 million, not 5.6 million. So,
and I think we transposed this over from probably a column that would be was like the requested column.
Okay,
because our actual authorization column is less than.
Got it. Okay. And then 8F, so that's the last one. And I should say too, thank you for putting these all together. This is very helpful to see everything in one spot, so we don't have to ask questions all the time about where everything's happening. But so with this one, I guess first of all, is this as of the end of November? Is this where our departments are at with spending? Is that
Yes.
the correct reports? Okay, so 11 out of 12 months. And then I think the goal here, and maybe we can try to get Clerk Kalish here at our next meeting in January, talk about this a little bit more, but it'd be nice if we could start to, one of Finance and Personnel Committee's jobs is to, I can't remember how it's worded in the committee structure document, but it's to track expenditures from the approved budget. We haven't really done that. So this is an effort to start to pull in a few departments that Finance and Personnel Committee, that report directly to us or have the most to do with our committee. But really, we need to be looking at this across the whole county system with all departments. The Finance and Personnel Committee should. So I had sat down with Clerk Kalish and Mr. Langrick to figure out how we could do this. And I asked about that document we used to get called the cash trial balance. And Mr. Kalish said, that's not going to help you with what you want to do, tracking expenses. That's something else. And he couldn't quite explain it, which, or not that I'm sure he could explain. I couldn't understand what the cash trial balance was. And I always had a hard time reading that thing anyway, when we used to get that report all the time. I didn't know why were some things included on there and others not. You know, why would we worry about some little piddly fund over here while we weren't worrying about the sheriff's department, which has a $3+ million budget every year? You know, how could we see it all? And so he was going to come up with some sort of a form that department heads could start plugging numbers in at the end of every month so that we could see how much of their approved adopted budget have they spent so far in the current year. So I'm hoping we can get him in here next month to talk about progress on that idea. There's just so many departments and funds out there, and it's hard to keep track of. And he was trying to think of how can we do it in a way that's not going to take a lot of time, but at the same time, it's also not going to give us too much detail. I think Clint was ready to share with us all the detail behind these numbers, and I said, no, just pull together the summary, because we don't really need to see we don't need to see the thick book of every little fund number for the whole county. We just need to see overall where we're at.
I can speak on that.
Oh, yeah,
I
that'd be
actually
great.
created a tracker
Okay.
with each department.
Oh, you did?
Yeah,
Oh,
expenses, beginning budget and end budget. So
Okay.
hopefully it's simple. I think I showed it to Derek and so far he approves of it. So
oh, great. So
yeah,
this
we
is
can
in
present it
progress.
soon.
Okay.
Yeah. Mhm.
And so Tammy Wheelock, I got your name right,
Yes,
correct?
yes,
Is our accounting supervisor.
yes.
So she was the deputy county clerk under clerk, and now she's the accounting supervisor under our administrator. So I just wanted everyone to also know that that change happened recently.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, well, we'll look forward to learning more next month.
Sure.
So I suppose it will be you and the clerk here
Yeah.
to talk about that. Okay. Any other comments or questions on any of the financial reports? I got all my questions out.
Mr. Chairman, the numbers are so important to us. We can't make informed decisions about performance unless we have readable and understandable numbers in a format that we can all understand.
Thank you. Very well said. Okay, so I'm looking for a motion to, I believe, accept all the reports. A motion to approve the financial reports.
I'll make a motion.
Okay, motion by Cooey,
I'll second it.
second by Gentis. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed, say no. Okay, that motion carries. Agenda item number 9, extending existing auditing contract with Johnson Block and Company Incorporated.
Mr. Chair, looking today for motion to approve contract extension with Johnson Block and Company to perform the 2021 county financial audit. Background on this item, Richland County is engaged with Johnson Block for the past several years in the review, audit, and reporting of the Richland County financial position, compliance, and processes. It is recommended by the administrator that during this time of transition that we extend our contract with Johnson Block to conduct our 2021 audit. Rule authority on this one is contracts, agreements entered into on behalf of Richland County should be reduced to writing whenever possible. All contracts involving an expenditure of $10,000 or more a year must be approved by the county board, except the 1 year's extension to an existing contract may be authorized by the appropriate committee. Looking then for engagement on this project. At the estimated cost. Okay, I put it in the wrong spot. If you look underneath the attachments and reference, the actual financial thing is there based on the estimates. The base fee will not exceed a range of $31,600 to $34,750. Account impacts will be the Fund 10 5158 account, then also impacting Pine Valley's their account for their expenditures. Mr. Chair.
Okay, so we're looking for a motion to approve this contract extension with our auditor.
Move for approval.
Motion by Seep,
I'll second.
Second by Cooey. What was the original length of our contract?
We enter into it on a continual rolling 1-year agreement based on the original contract. So it's our engagement letter will be for the next year's audit essentially again.
So this is an extension of a 1-year contract for an additional year.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Any other questions? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right,
Opposed, say no. Okay, that motion carries. Agenda item number 10, outline of 10-year financial plan, operations and timeline reports.
Mr. Chair, looking today for a motion to accept report on 10-year financial planning. Background on this item is in response to drafted goals of the county strategic plan, which is under development, and in response to the county's identified financial challenges, the county administrator is developing a 10-year financial planning process. This process will be executed in several phases and will require collaboration from county staff, contracted support, county committee, boards, and commissions. To manage this feat, the administrator is developing an operations order to guide the process, establish control and decision points, and align expectations. The following outline is a draft of an intended phased planning and timeline. And then below on that same document, looking at document 10 on your iPads or on the website. So kind of the phases that we'll be looking here is in January of next year, January 2022 will be kind of the rollout to finance and personnel phase. Looking to have an operations order format presented to you, that being important for the sake of gathering the summary of the financial situation, trends, assumptions, timeline, process, and variables to consider for our course of action development, and then also kind of a format for what the capital management plan will look like. Purpose on this is going to be to affirm our data points that are desired. So before we go deep into the weeds on tracking down all the data points that we want to make sure at the front end we kind of have our list so that we don't have to double back and look again. The scope of the operation, the expectation of what the end product should look like for you folks, and then envisioning a 10-year capital management plan with prioritized projects, and then a financial plan is essentially to kind of shape our annual appropriations guidance. Remember at our beginning of our annual budget process, we release out to the departments telling them how they should be submitting their appropriation requests with such a percent or a dollar amount of an increase and include wages and take this off and add this. So kind of a document to be able to reference for the next decade on putting those guidances together. In February, then, it'd be the adoption phase of the order, looking for a resolution for the operations order and financial planning and capital management plan that would come through finance and personnel and then off to county board. We'd have preliminary discussion on employee benefits package. And we talked about too of a review and polling questionnaire to understand what our current employees' desires are for the sake of recruitment, but also kind of considering on retention aspects on trying to attract new talent. And then preliminary discussions on property tax impacts, if we want to discuss at the front end too on what our intentions are for further impacts on the levers that we're pulling to impact our property tax levy. Again, so we're affirming, we're going to agree on the state of the county financial position, authority to plan, variables to consider, and a process of bringing plans forward and a timeline to deliver. So those are all things that hopefully the operations order should kind of capture. And again, we're agreeing that this is what the financial situation looks like. We're agreeing that these are the potential trend lines. We're agreeing the authority to plan resides in presumably administration with aspects of elected bodies. We're agreeing that in that operations order 2 is kind of the list of the different levers that we're going to consider pulling and flipping, as well as the departments and services that are going to be considered, and then the process of how that plan is going to come through a finance and a personnel and off to a county board. In the March timeline, what'll be our course of action development, we'd be reviewing our previous financial commitments, again talking about our commitment to undesignated fund balance, as well as previous commitments to the Carlson wage schedule. Decisions on health insurance, namely if we want to consider going to an ETF plan or not, and then further discussions on broker change, provider change, plan change, premium share changes. Guidance on property tax impacts. Again, do we want to commit like we have with our undesignated fund balance and or Carlson wage scheduled progression. We want to have also comparable language of how we want to address tax impacts, and then a status on will be given at that time in March. So the big points of March then is going to be a firm kind of employee benefit goals and what we would like to do with the taxpayers. April, course of action development and possible resolution of prior commitments. So based on those conversations, there could be possible resolutions if we want to have changes in health insurance, we want to have changes in wages, we want to have changes in our reserve for commitment or our changes or additions to any kind of tax impacts. And then again, a status on what the plan currently looks like. In May, we would hit then a plan recommendation from administration. I'd have a drafted 10-year plan for you, a capital management plan, a tracking list and levers that would I envision right now is going to look very comparable to what we used, that spreadsheet we used for our operations, where we had our column of, you know, this is a fill, this is an add. If you want to flip something, we have to balance it out. Kind of seen a document like that extended, if you will, off to the right for like 10 years. It's kind of the plan. It might get a little bit busy. I don't know how else at this point to try to capture that. But with that too, is you might also have the possibility of proposed notification letters to partners and services and funds. As we talked about, if we're going to make significant changes to different partners, to some of our non-mandated services, reductions or additions or any types of changes to mandated services and non-mandated services, if we can plan that out in advance and let them know that there are going to be significant changes, it gives them months, years, multiple years to kind of plan to either find other funding sources or to prepare for whatever types of changes arrive from the plan. At that time, also in May, anticipating that there's going to be hearings with departments and county feedback, and then a first review with the county board. We'll take it to the county board and say, this is kind of what we're looking at. So they have an opportunity to be in the know, and then to be reaching out to myself and you folks on what their positions are as individuals. The purpose of this, again, is for administrative proposals and hearings to allow public feedback, and then from departments, committees, public, etc. And then we hit June, it would be plan adoption. It would be final review and recommendation through finance and personnel, and then resolution for adopting the 10-year financial plan and capital management plan. And then the purpose then will be, we use those documents then when we're establishing our guidance that goes out for annual operation budgets, and then referencing the capital management plan when we start talking about our borrowing going forward into the future years. Mr. Chair.
Okay, so we're looking for a motion to accept this report, and we can discuss it here.
I move to accept.
Okay, motion by Gentis,
I'll second.
second by Cooey. So questions or comments on this from the committee?
I mean, just a minor, not minor, a major. I'm very happy you're going to address the health insurance in March. I'm getting some nomination papers signed. I'm running into county board or county employees in my community, and many of them say that they maybe should change, or you know, that their other health insurance that they had before was better. There's just a lot of things that we need to really work on that.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Okay, let's go ahead and vote then. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed, say no. Okay, that motion carries. So we're now moving on to agenda item number 15. Sheriff Porter, I see you just walked in, but we moved things around so that the closed session's at the end. Yeah, sorry. But you can stay if you want for this other stuff, but just wanted you to know you could step out and step back in if you'd like. Agenda item number 15, out-of-state travel for employees. So at the last meeting, and I think the meeting before that also, Mr. Seat asked if we could discuss this, and I finally remembered this time. So now it's on the agenda, and I think Ms. Dole prepared a cover sheet for us with the appropriate language that's already in our employee handbook regarding this.
Very minimal, Mr. Chair, looking today for possible discussion points on employees attending training outside the state. Background is there is no language in the handbook concerning distance of travel or location restrictions on travel for training. We do have wording in the handbook as follows. It's underneath miscellaneous personnel provisions, bullet number 15, training opportunities. Employees will be provided training opportunities to enhance job performance and to advance career opportunities subject to budgetary constraints. The only other reference that we really have to out of state that we came across was in county board rules, language specific to county board supervisors that says if county board supervisors are attending training out of state, it needs approval from finance and personnel. Is that? I believe that's what it says. To the employees, yeah. Correct.
It does sound about right, but it also gets a little confusing because I thought we had an out of state. We needed special permission, but thanks for distinguishing between employees and county board members. That does help. So Mr. Seep, let's hand it off to you so you can share your thoughts on this.
Well, just as a background, over the years, the county has never allowed, by traditional policy has never allowed an employee to travel out of state for training or conferences or conventions. And in the past few years, there have been at least 3 or 4 incidents where employees have traveled as far as California, Las Vegas, Myrtle Beach. I have gotten a lot of complaints from other employees saying if that department can go, why aren't the rest of us going? And so I think in this case, in the case of this particular incident, the state of Wisconsin provides an opportunity for training at its 2 training sessions, which meets all of the requirements for their maintaining their status and their standing as an employee and in terms of servicing their clients. So I would say that we need some control over this. I don't, whether it's by the administrator or by the Personnel and Finance Committee. We can't afford to spend, a couple $1,000, $2,000 or $3,000 every time we send somebody out of state to a convention, and that's about what it amounts to in terms of travel, hotel, airfare, and so forth. So I'm adamantly opposed to this, so long as training is available within the state of Wisconsin. And I would like to see I think it would be in the best interest of the county and in the best interest of employee morale and fairness to establish a policy and procedure, perhaps coming from Mr. Langrick, to control this issue. Thank you.
Okay, so let's see if other committee members have responses to your thoughts on that. Supervisor Gentis?
I haven't been on a committee where that's been discussed, although I can think of Health and Human Services, the director. I would think there might be some meetings that would be very important for some people like that. I don't know if this has been, I don't know who's going to Las Vegas or California. I guess if there's similar training within the state, they should stay in state. And if there's something exceptional with a new law or something, then I think they'd bring it forward to the Finance Personnel Committee.
Okay.
I would
Mr.
agree.
Cooey.
Yeah, I would agree, Sean, the same. There should be plenty of training that everybody needs that works in the county and the state of Wisconsin. And I guess if there's some extenuating circumstance, then that's the way it should be looked at. I mean, it should be brought to someone to, someone else to make that decision whether we're going to do it or not.
Okay. Thank you. Supervisor Luck, do you have thoughts you want to share?
The only thing I would say is I think it's a good idea to have a written policy so that it's clear to everyone what the policy is. I think for the most part, I agree. I think that they probably can get their training. I was thinking Chicago, though, like there may be times when the training could be in Chicago and, that's out of state, but it's certainly within driving and the cost shouldn't be that high. But again, that's the kind of thing that, we should just have a statement in there that says individual cases can be evaluated by the administrator or the finance and personnel, whichever, and it can be handled, exceptions can be handled that way.
Okay, thank you. So I think maybe this seems to me that it could be something that would just be a few sentences in our employee handbook that would give some direction to employees and department heads about what the policy or expectation is about out-of-state travel. I think we need to today give some direction to Mr. Langreck because I'm assuming staff would be drafting those few sentences to bring back to us to consider. I think we need to give him some direction about whether we want to be the approving authority for that or whether we want him to be the approving authority for that. So,
Well, again, I think this is a personnel matter, and I think that unless you think that's too much, Clinton, I think personnel matters should go directly to you and let if it's written in the handbook.
okay, I'm seeing head nod and I agree by Mr. Cooey. What about Supervisor Seep and Luck?
I agree that the administrator should have the authority to, well, first of all, we should ask him to establish a policy and a procedure for the implementation to carry out the will of the county board. I presume that this will have to go to the county board for approval. And I see no problem with having the administrator, that's when we hired him, to work perhaps with the council of the Finance and Personnel Committee to carry forth with this.
Okay, and Supervisor Luck, do you have an opinion?
I'm fine with it going to Clint. I think that makes sense.
Okay, so let's get a motion on the floor here and vote this up or down. So anyone want to take a stab at that?
Well, I'll move that the procedure for out-of-state training be clearly written down in the handbook, and that if such case happens, that personnel will contact the county administrator.
Yep, that sounds good. Okay, so I think employee handbook language to the effect that approval would need to come from the county administrator. So that's a motion by Gensis,
I'll second.
second by Luck. Further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Okay, that motion carries. So we'll look forward to seeing specific language, and then yes, that will go forward to the county board. We can't approve and changes to the handbook, but we can recommend them to the county board. Okay, agenda item number, and Mr. Langreich, I never gave you a chance to speak on that one. Did you want to say anything else?
I don't think so.
Okay.
So let it be written, so let it be done.
Okay, okay. I should have asked you that before we voted, but agenda item number 16, discussion and possible action regarding administrative strategic goals.
Mr. Chair, looking today for a motion to, for a future item, or a motion today to have the county administrator bring forward recommended administrative priorities with a procedure for future altering of administrative priorities. Kind of complicated, but again, we'll kind of explain it out. Maybe you can have a better understanding of it. Background on this is the county administrator will present a report on progress in addressing the administrative goals for the 2020 and 2022 session, and report on the current list of requested identified administrative projects and initiatives facing the administrator and administrative team. Administrator will be looking for discussion points in bringing forward a plan in January to prioritize projects and focus administrative resources. Discussion and planning on and incorporating the county's strategic plan is also intended for this session here today. The two different trackers that you'll see are 16A and 16B. 16A you are probably familiar with. It is our 12 strategic goals that were placed with the administrator that we did through interviews at the very beginning of the 2020 session, beginning of the 2020 session. So a continued track on that is development of a long-term strategic plan in working with the strategic plan committee. They are, I feel, closer to the end, the beginning. We did the extension, you'll remember, on Tuesday to reach that out for conclusion prior to the beginning of the next session, but we should be on track to have that completed yet this year. Transition of HR finance to the county administrator's office. We did complete on that. Reminder, at the same time, though, we kind of then also added a financial officer hat to the county clerk, so we still have some blurring and very much a team yet operating up in the clerk administrator's office. Resolutions, making resolutions and ordinances available and organized on the internet. Development with that today. We did make motion here today to appropriate Arpa funds and engaging with Muni Code to get our ordinances started. Future discussion on resolutions and having all that complete by the end of the session, though, is probably unlikely, but we should have actions in place before the end of the session. Development of a uniform HR policy and procedures with the help of our assistant administrator. We're making track on that, but that was one that we asked to be postponed. It was approved through the county board. Implement of uniform performance review program. At the time, I was at 3 of 7 scheduled ones in May and postponed. I've yet to reconvene on that, and I'll talk about that again in the next document. We also had county board bless off on stepping back off on the broadband initiative, as well as purchasing policy, which are still on the tracking documents, but have kind of been put to the back burner. Development of new county board orientation program. We have actions on that through Sean's other committee of rules and resolution. I think we have intentions to bring a proposal forward through next month. So we should be close to completion on that one prior to the next session. Full review of the county handbook, addendums, and administrative manual. We would have been close today with Health and Human Services, Sheriff, and Highway, which were on there. We'll back that up until next month. We'll do it at the first meeting and still get it through the county board in January. So we should be complete on that as well in January. So we're getting close. The last 3 partnerships with Southwest we developed a policy and procedure for complaints. We developed a compensation classification plan, which we'll have some tidying up and bring that forward as well in the first quarter of 2022. Then we'll kind of drop into the next document, document number 16B. 16B is, you've seen some of these tasks, probably about 7 months ago, it was brought forward with, these are the things on the plate. I tried to reconfigure this list. On the very left, you'll see by duties. And what that means is it's kind of broken down by the list of different duties on the administrator position description. So in carrying this forward, again, it kind of keeps it lined up with what your expectations are for your county administrator. In board relations, the initiatives here are, there was a request for incorporating as a policy or a rule or procedure in addressing how to handle public comment and public meetings. You'll see a list there in sherbet orange. Is that the right color of orange, Cheryl? That's sherbet orange. You'll see the list of the different kind of committees that administrator is a part of or administrative team is a part of. And again, those are, they're not specialized projects or initiatives. It's kind of a routine thing on there, but it's just kind of keeping in track with the other projects. Orientation and training program, which was, we just talked about on the other list, is on there. Committees, there's the policy for review committee authorities and responsibilities of those types, like the structure document, and heavy lifting with Sean and his committee, Sean specifically, on kind of putting together plans for what that looks like, as well as then on for rules, process for appointments to boards, committees, and commissions, rules and resolutions. Have been kind of running with that one with a lot of the committee members now kind of taking over most of the heavy lifting as point of contact. With the administrative, do you want to break there, Mr. Chair, or do you want me to keep on going? Because it's probably going to be like another 10 minutes. I don't want, maybe want to have everybody lose their thoughts.
Well, I guess it's kind of up to the committee. I mean, we got a 7-page, sorry, I thought it was 7 pages when I was reviewing it earlier. It's a 3-page document. Do you want to be able to jump in, or do you want him to just go through all these? Are you going to read them all?
I don't have to. Whatever your pleasure is. If you want to just review through them, I guess my intentions through this is to kind of share again what's the project expectations out there, And then again, to kind of take it as administrative team is a limited resource and where we want to position it to kind of move some things. I certainly have my bias on what I think are the most important things, but some of those are kind of related to state statute obligations of my position. So again, that's my bias with some of the projects. My goal is to give you guys a view at it this month, and as we hit next month, kind of come back and say, you know, these are some of the things that, in talking with my administrative team, that we feel should be at the top of the list. Now, conversations to go forward, though, still kind of is how do we kind of control the flow on it? I mean, it's easy enough to kind of just say these are management decisions, and the administrator should be tracking on these and deciding what's a priority going forward, and that's quite all right. I just know that with as much as the pile keeps going, I'm going to be in a situation where committees or administrators are going to be asking us for things, and then I'm going to have to say, no, we can't do that. Or we have something in the middle of saying, I can add that to the list and we'll review this, and then a body or a committee will bless off on what that list looks like. And that's not always going to be coming from an elected person or a body. That might come from me then as well, if there's going to be a kind of a gatekeeper function, and I'll say, hey, this other things have kind of popped up on the plate. I recommend we kind of do this versus that. With the volume of it, it just feels like I've got to make sure that it's brought to your attention on these are all the things that are out there. So if we're missing expectations, or we're dropping the ball on a couple things, that these are the current petitions of projects and initiatives. I guess I can leave it there, Mr. Chair.
Well, let me just start us off with a question, because I do remember when we did this last time, it was the amount of stuff on your list is huge. It's a lot.
And it's not like it's all just my desk conjuring it. It certainly is a support cast of people doing it. But again, to track it and keep tabs on it is half of them, and then probably half of them is actual production value of producing it. So
I guess my question I want to throw out there is, how do things end up on your plate? Who has this whole county operation, who has the power to put something on your plate?
I don't know if we have that established right now. So, right now it's things that, the example, like we made motion here today, let's change the handbook and let's do a handbook change. And so those are small bits and pieces of, if we're just doing a change on it. Now, if it's a policy and we need to have an entire new policy put together on this type of a procedure, then it probably gets added to this list. But that can come from recommendations from supervisors. I think of one where a supervisor approached me and said, hey, do we have, not to just say, what's the policy on this? And after researching it, like, well, we don't have that policy. So yes, that should be added to the list. Other things have been direct requests from committees of, hey, can we have you take a look at this? Other things flow through departments on, the department asked me, or my department has a need, or a supervisory committee has a need. So it all kind of funnels to management, which it should do. And then that's kind of what you have an administrator to do, is to try to be the conductor and control those things. At the same time, with the volume that we have, it's just, there's a lot of expectations out there, and to make you folks aware of that, if it's something where it's still just, you keep doing the best you can and sort out as much as you can, I got it. At the same time, though, I might be in situations on occasion where I'm telling supervisors or elected supervisory committees that they understand it, but there's a lot on the docket. This is what it all looks like. Right now, I'm not quite as evaluating this as a higher priority as it might be to you.
Yeah, so I'm kind of hearing you say individual supervisors can put things on your plate, committees can put things on your plate, department heads can, or you could.
Yes. Yeah.
So those are
Or, I mean, and there's things too that there's good ideas that funnel in from citizens as well, or something else another county is doing that is picked up on. Hey, why aren't we taking a look at this? So I mean, it's a lot to manage. Keep it on a list, and we're trying to do the best we can with it. I just know at the same time that emails sometimes are getting a little pointier on where is this, where are we on that, and I can appreciate that, certainly get it, but try to have that balance again on how big of a mountain do we want to have. don't want to lose track on keeping things on it, obviously, and just say, well, we're not doing it and lose sight of it. At the same time, trying to manage the expectations. So
Well,
I don't know if I have an answer today, but certainly love discussion points.
Mr. Chairman,
let's let Supervisor Gentis go first.
Yeah. I mean, we don't want another committee, but it seems like it should be, setting your goals should be something closely related to the county board chair that doesn't have to run through everybody else. That would be an expectation from the county board chair. Am I right in that thinking?
I think that's another, I'm just jotting all these ideas down about who helps put things on the
Well,
plate.
I think that should be somebody who helps with the priorities. Can't all be a micromanaging your time. I think, you need to decide it, and I think with the county board, I mean, that would be something, I don't know that we should make formal or not. I mean, that would be my suggestion.
Okay. Mr. Seep?
where does the strategic planning committee fit in here? And secondly, I have two questions. Secondly, Mr. Langrick indicated that he has his biases in terms of which direction he would like us to go, what priorities he would like to have. I would like to hear those, not as biases, but his preferences. From time to time, I think we need to know which direction he, as an administrator, feels that the county should go in terms of its best interest long term. And so I know that sometimes his remarks or his warnings are perhaps appear to be not listened to, but I think he needs to remind us of his biases or his preferences. I prefer that word, from time to time, and not be bashful about doing it. That's why we hired Mr. Langrick, and I have a great deal of respect for him. He has some great ideas, but I don't want him to feel like he's being ignored.
Well, I think your first question about the strategic planning committee makes me think of this committee. And Mr. Langrick keeps reminding me of this when he'll show me the draft agenda, before it comes, and I'll say, why is this on Finance and Personnel Committee's agenda? And he'll say, under our committee structure document, under letter E, these are certain things that don't sound like finance, they don't sound like personnel, but they're more administrative. It says the committee shall advise and supervise county administrative affairs in general with a view of bringing about proper coordination and cooperation between the various departments and agencies in the county to the end that the best business practices may be observed, that due efficiency may be maintained, and that the interests of the citizens of the county may best be served. So in a lot of ways, I think where you may be going with that strategic planning comment, it just reminded me of how we have as a committee right here some responsibility to say, and maybe we just need to clean this up before we get to the next board. What role does this committee play in helping to set priorities? Because if, I see like everything on your list, and I've added some things to your list. I know I have.
Well,
And I'm sure many of us have said things to Mr. Langrick that made him think, well, I should probably do something about that, but I don't know if I can do all of this. I think when Supervisor Luck, when you and I and Chair Brewer went down to Iowa County last year just to kind of see, we went to that one meeting. I can't remember if it was an executive committee meeting or something like that. And I remember
it was
executive. Okay, which is kind of the equivalent to this one, although it's different there. I remember their administrator, Larry Berkey, looking to their executive committee and saying, if you really want me to work on this broadband thing, then something else has got to fall off the plate. And so then they debated it. There were like 7 of them there, and they were debating whether or not broadband should go on or if it should fall off. Do I remember that right, Supervisor-elect?
Yep.
Okay. So maybe we need to look at, how does Mr. Berkey down in Iowa County do that? Does he have a spreadsheet where he keeps track of all this stuff, or does he limit them to 10 things, or kind of wondering how he does that? And do we as a committee need to develop some sort of more reasonable expectations? And has someone else done that? And can we kind of see what they did so that not too much gets added to your plate?
Yeah, I can ask out to Larry. I can ask out to Brent and to Cary and other surrounding types of counties. At the same time, too, the thing to probably keep in mind is it's not going to be quite apples to apples, because I'm like looking at my list and I know like down in Iowa County, they're working with a designated salaried finance officer and HR coordinator pieces, and they've got a little bit more personnel on the administrative end that are kind of got their own lists running. But certainly can understand how they're controlling the list things that still fall administratively onto Larry, as well as Brent in his relationship with his board, and Cary as well.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead, Ms.
Well,
Gentis.
I thought always the Finance and Personnel Committee was sort of the overall factor of how things are, basically what's run and what's important. And down Sleep, I think we're very happy we have the Strategic Planning Committee, but that has been a temporary committee. That's not a standing committee, if I understand.
The strategic planning is to create the plan, but then they are going to be extended past that then for review and
Yeah,
stuff.
but
So
for a time period, but it will end in time.
I think the only timeline is associated with presenting the plan.
Yeah.
Past that, I
Yeah.
think they still have obligations to stay as a committee to do annual or quarterly type of reviews with
Oh,
it.
okay, well, that's okay with me. So I guess because always the chair of the county is on this committee, that's part of this committee. And then the chair, that we should, as 7 people, do it, but sometimes maybe we can say that we'll have a smaller little group to go over from this committee, so it's not so heavily taking so long.
Well, your first comments, I think those are very well taken. You're saying this committee has always been kind of the executive or administrative committee for the county. Historically, that's what it has been. This is the first session where we've had a county administrator with this committee. So figuring out how to relate the two to one another, it used to be the clerk as the administrative coordinator. And so I think we're kind of feeling this relationship out, and seeing how does it best work. And so can't remember the last part of your comment, but to me, that makes sense. I just think I'm hearing you say we're putting too much on your plate as a whole, and maybe this committee needs to be exercising a little bit more our authority that the county board's given us to kind of help prioritize things. And I think what Mr. Seep is saying is, maybe I'm getting this wrong, but we need to hear what you think about what you would throw off the list. But you also, I think, are saying to us, you need to hear what we think.
Yeah,
you need us to prioritize.
I don't know how much you're going to be able to really kind of take off the plate, for an analogy's sake. I think it's really kind of that focus piece on what pieces do we have to, let's push this through the finish line before we touch other pieces. But at the same time, we gotta keep the list there so we don't lose track of the ideas, and at least know that they're hanging there.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I love having this list. I think it's good. I don't quite know where you're coming from there, because Administrator Langrick has brought the list to us. We've got it here. That's what he's doing, is bringing this list and going over it with us. So we're already doing it, aren't we?
The authority that I kind of relied on in bringing it to you folks is that part of the agreement, the administrator's agreement has finance and personnel listed as like the reviewer of performance. So I thought, boy, my folks are going to decide if I keep getting paid, better be in the know. And then I think in that language though, too, it does say that annually goals should be, get exactly, but like goals established by the county board. And we've kind of done that through the, the front of the session kind of a process, but, part of it too is it's just, this is going to be an all evolving type of a thing. I mean, even since I've created the list, there's other things of, oh, we forgot about that, or, okay, this is kind of different. This one maybe should be separate out, really should be two different types of projects. It's always going to be changing. So, I mean, part of it is an option too of consideration is that it's really, maybe this is just more of a reportable type of a thing, and the administrator brings the list to you on a by meeting or a bi-quarterly type of a thing and say, this is what's all going on. I've decided I'm taking actions on this. And that's the way we go with it too. But again, with this being the first session with an administrator, finance and personnel, and the flux of it, I wanted you folks to just kind of be aware of what the mountain looks like right now and how much involvement and guidance and direction, because certainly I know that folks solicit feedback to you as well on, these things are getting done, or why aren't we doing this, or these things are getting done, and we really appreciate it to be part of that conversation.
Let's see if folks who haven't talked yet have any thoughts. Ms. Luck or Mr. Cooey?
Who did you call out?
Words of wisdom for us. Supervisor Luck or Supervisor Cooey?
Cooey, oh.
I guess I'm just so excited to see that we have a list of priorities, and I understand that we are dumping a lot. I guess I don't really have a set opinion as to who should be telling the administrator what should or shouldn't be on the list. I think that the strategic plan that is developed by the committee and then adopted by the board should help him understand what the priorities of the board are. So his list should reflect very closely with what the strategic priorities of the county's strategic plan is. So I think once that document is has been formed and approved, that should help a lot in making sure that his plan is headed in the right direction. And I agree with Supervisor Seep. I think that Mr. Langrick should continue to bring these things to us and say, well, if you want me to take on this, something's got to give. And these are the things that I think should be pushed down the list. And these are the things that I think are of higher priority.
Okay, thank you. Want to say, yeah.
No, I'm good. Oh, I agree with Melissa. I mean, and everyone else. Mr. Langer needs to tell us, okay, this is what I can get done. And I think these are the top 10 things that I can get done and complete in this time frame. And we just keep taking the list like that, because the list is constantly going to be added to. But I think if we have a plan every year and he goes, okay, I'm going to commit to this, and we just monitor that and go forward. Now, sometimes there's going to be things that come up that we have to say, hey, no, let's stop doing this, but this committee, in my opinion, is a committee that helps him make that decision. I feel that you should easily be able to come to us and say, listen, this just showed up. We got to do this. I feel I can take this back and we can go forward with this. And I think that's where the communication should be. And if we talk about it briefly on a monthly basis or a bi-monthly basis, I think if you look at the first page, the page A, we got a lot of stuff done last year, or I should say, Mr. Lankert got a lot of stuff done. We're just along for the ride for most of it. But that to me is workable, and you can show progress. If we got a list of 200 things on there, we're going to have a hard time getting anything done. But if we got 10 or 12 items or areas maybe, or whatever it may be, and let's get stuff done, go forward. And no one better to tell us what the administrator should be telling us what he feels is the best way to get, okay, so I need to get this done so that I can get this done so that I can get this done. And I think that's where that should go. So I guess I'm waiting for you to tell us what you want. We'll go from there. But, you know, because there could be something that all of a sudden just shows up and, hey, we got it. So that's where I'm at.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, both very helpful comments. I appreciate everyone's comments on this. This does kind of make me think, you know, somewhere in our training or our handbook for county officials, it says something about how no one county board member has the ability to really make a decision on their own. We operate in groups called committees. And for anything to really happen, a committee has to agree with that. And in a lot of cases, the county board has to agree after the committee makes a recommendation. So, you know, I just wonder if part of how things get on lists is, you know, say a department head wants to do something. Well, they probably need to go through their committee to get overall buy-in for the idea about what it is. Do we want to do that? They don't need to figure out how to do it. That's the department head's job. That's the administrator's job. And if someone wants to reorganize 2 departments and put them together or something like that, there's a committee to go to for that. You know, so before we go too far down the line, seeing where that particular committee is on something, I think is helpful. And then the other thing, and I'm starting to bring this up in more and more meetings, is I just think we have too many committees. And that creates a problem. I was looking at up at the committees that in Sherbert Orange that you're going to. Well, that's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 committees. I know we have at least 15, if not more. And getting Mr. Langrecht to all those committees, I mean, there's no way that's going to happen. So that's something I do hope that we can be discussing at the Rules and Resolutions Committee in January, is how can we look at changing our committee structure so for the next session we don't keep him running around so crazy. You know, to have things more consolidated. I've heard a couple ideas from different individuals, you know, about, well, maybe this could go with that or this and that. And I think maybe we just need to, so if we're really going to, you know, empower these committees, let's have a discussion about that where it's appropriate and see how that fits into your workload. And does that help prioritize things as well for you? So just some thoughts of my own about this whole thing. And I did want to stop you from reading the whole list because I really wanted to talk more about how things get on the list.
Yeah.
You know, rather than
Listen to me cry and whine about how much.
yeah.
Yeah, I
I
got
mean,
it.
because I get your point by making this list for us.
Well, right, and not
You
to
know.
sound snotty with it.
No,
I mean,
no.
but yes, to understand kind of what's all out there, and in a lot of these things kind of stem back, you know, is long-term type of needs that have been brought forward, and unfortunately, we haven't kind of got to them all. So, and I don't want to quell people from not bringing forward good ideas like, oh, that's going to put more stress on the plate by any means, because we can't just stop and say it's not a good idea. It's just, you know, managing all the good ideas before they become a bad idea.
We've got a big backlog of issues in this county. There's no doubt. And so that's why this list is so long. And yeah, I'm sure a lot do, but we're also changing our form of government, you know, so.
Mr. Chairman,
Yep, go ahead.
just thinking conceptually about the purpose of a county in terms of its constituents, we, as a county government, we are here basically to provide services to our residents, mostly services, very few goods, and sometimes those services tend to overlap one another. I think it's worth thinking about conceptually a model that we might call a consortium of services, where all the major service providers in the county meet with the administrator and perhaps their committee chairs monthly, somewhat akin to the way the administrator meets monthly, apparently, with the department heads, and explore together that consortium of service entity and look for ways to find efficiencies and eliminate overlapping. I realize that's kind of an abstract concept, but I think it's worth thinking about, and I would suggest that to anybody who wants to open their mind to the idea, as well as I'm sure Mr. Langreck is familiar with this model. Just throwing that out there, sir.
Okay, thanks for sharing those thoughts. And I'm reminded too that we have a motion before us that to have the county administrator bring forward recommended administrative priorities with a procedure for future altering of administrative priorities. So hopefully this discussion's been helpful for you in developing that. So would anyone like to make that motion?
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Cooey,
Second.
I'll second.
second by Seep. All those in favor, or any discussion on that motion? Okay. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Okay, that motion carries. So you can go forward and craft something for us. So thank you for bringing this to us.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
And then we'll do agenda item number 17, and then we'll go back to the closed session item. So future agenda items. I know that someone, I think Mr. Turk last time had mentioned PTO. I talked to Mr. Langreck. We'll be looking at perhaps February or March for getting that on the agenda. Mr. Seep, I was going through minutes and you had said one on the performance being tied to pay. So I've got those two that are in my mind for future agenda items. So we just go around and see if there's any additional ones that I've forgotten or new ones. Ms. Gentis?
I think extension is, the broadband I see is something that we committees need to be working on. Did all of you get that email that there's billions and billions of dollars for broadband from Markline? Did you read that?
Well, we won't discuss it. Just go ahead and what's your future
So
agenda
my question
item?
is, how do we tap into that?
Thank you. Any others? Okay, Mr. Cooey?
Nothing today.
Okay, Ms. Luck?
Nothing to me.
Okay, Mr. Seep?
Since I'm already on the agenda, I won't add any more at this time. I don't like to telegraph my punches.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so now we're going to move to agenda item number 11, closed session pursuant to Wisconsin State Statute 19.851G, conferring with legal counsel with the governmental body who is rendering oral or written advice concerning strategy to be adopted by the body with respect to litigation in which is or is likely to become involved. So I'm looking for a motion to go into closed session for that purpose.
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Cooey,
And then I think, I'm sorry, Fletcher.
looking for a second.
I'll second.
Second by Gentis. All those in favor of going into closed session, please say aye, and then I'll work on clearing the floor.
Mr. Chair, you got one
Oh,
public comment. I believe.
just. Sure, yeah. Yeah, sure, go ahead and come up here. So I just need you to come up to this microphone and speak right into it so the folks online can hear you. And then if you could just introduce yourself.
I'm Robert Scallon. I'm with Hidden Valleys, and I'm the third District 3 supervisor from Grant County. I'm here because I heard a rumor that you're thinking of dropping us, and Richland County is in the heart of the Hidden Valley, and we don't want to lose you. I understand money because I'm on a county board too. First of all, I want to thank you for letting me speak, And I love this place because this is where we meet a lot. You have wonderful accommodations. And there's a guy up there who's a cause of me. Who's this Don Simp, is it? Who is that guy? Anyway, hi, Merry Christmas to you all. But listen, we don't want you to leave. You're in the center of this. Today, I had the privilege of being here, and it's educational. And we all have the same problem. But we're getting a lot of government money and state money. I figured out population of Richland County, you divide it into the amount you are excess. I believe it is about $1,100, a little over. This is going to cost Richland County taxpayers 6 cents. 6 cents. And I don't know, we don't want you to leave. And I don't think you should. But that's entirely up to you. But think it over. This is Frank Lloyd Wright. My mother grew up in Lloyd, so I do have connection in Richland County. And I think that Don Simp is living on my great uncle's farm. That guy, and he's the one that got me to be treasurer of this committee. By the way, I don't handle the money, it goes in the bank. But just consider what I've listened to you today talk about money. It's only 6 cents. It's divide the population by your 1,100 and some dollars, and you're getting all kinds of government money right now. And this sales tax will lower your property tax. And that's what we want, really, is to lower taxes. And this, we hope, is out, most of it, we hope, is outside money. And it's there. Richland County is in the heart of the tourist area, really. My grandpa, Lloyd, you ever heard of Lloyd? That's where my mother came from. And there's an old building still there that my great uncle built. That's about the only one standing. And of course, my grandpa farm, somebody else bought it. And I drive by and the barn's laying on the ground. It's heartbreaking. Wait, I can't tell you all my sadness. But we do, to make I talked probably too much already, but we want you to stay. And I think you'll benefit. And the way you spent money, you built a new pool, you spent money on other things. If you could just use a car or a piece of equipment, like another couple of months will pay for the $1,100, I would.
So Mr. Scallon, thanks for coming today. And it's probably appropriate you bring this up under future agenda items. We need to get this properly noticed to be able to discuss it with you. And so you could leave, I don't know if you have your email address or your phone number with somebody, and then we'll let you know which meeting, whether it's this committee or another, where this gets discussed.
Okay.
We'll make sure that you're able to come to that meeting.
Okay, thank you, because I got to go to a girls' basketball game tonight.
I've got Ronald Benish's number, if it's okay, we reach out to Ron.
That would be great.
Okay.
Ron Benish, yes, from
Yep.
Iowa County.
Correct, sir.
Yeah, okay, listen, that'd be fine. One of us will show up, and thank you. Thank you all, and I hope a prosperous New Year. Keep that money rolling in, because you guys are spending it.
Happy New Year to you too.
Yeah, hi, Don.
Hello.
Okay, so you're welcome. Thanks for sitting through our meetings. Okay, so we're ready to take a vote on a motion to go into closed session. So if I can hear everybody say aye, then we can do it without a roll call. So all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Supervisor Luck, are you in favor?
Yeah, I said aye, Don, just over.
Okay, that's okay. So that motion carries, so we can go into closed session now.
Okay,
And
just to confirm, John, we're all buttoned up electronically? Yes, if you could, please. If you could kick out everyone with the exception of Supervisor Seep and Supervisor Luck, then I will reach out to Attorney Wendell.
Attorney Wendell.
Okay, Attorney Wendell, are you in there on the, is that you on the 608 or ended in 88 number?
Yep, that's me.
If we can leave that one in too, John, this 608, ending in 88.
And we'll, of course, open the door here in the county boardroom when we come out of closed session if someone wants to attend then. And if there's anyone else who wants to be here when closed session stops, if you could just, I think it'd be Joanne Kulatz. Can you speak up if you want to be here when we come out of closed session?
Yeah, that would be great.
Okay, so Mr. John Cooey, is there a way to get her back in here when that happens? Okay, so if you just hang tight there, can she just stay on WebEx and will it work that way, or does she need to contact one of us or call back in? Okay, so he's gonna do a breakout session. So you'll be able to stay there and then rejoin us remotely, however all that works.
Show up on the.
Mr. Chairman, are you on the air? I can't hear you.
Not yet, we're still waiting to clear the virtual floor here.
Thank you very kindly.
So, Joanne, can you still hear me?
Yes, I can.
Would it be okay if I contacted you once we're done, because we're having difficulty here creating a breakout session?
Yeah, that would be great.
Okay, and let me make sure I have the right phone number for you in my phone. So hold on for just a few seconds before you take off.
647-2111.
Actually, call my cell 608.
604
Yep.
6471.
Yeah, because I'm actually on vacation this afternoon. So,
Yep, I'll call you on your cell phone.
all right, thanks.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, bye. Leave meeting. Leave.
Okay, we're all ready?
Yep. Are we recording still, or?
Him. And so we got a motion by Cooey.
Is that right? I'll second. Is that what you
A
mean?
second by Gentis. All those in favor of adjourning, please say aye.
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 Okay, we're adjourned. Thanks, everyone.